Hello. So I learned some more about what I what I said yesterday about the an angel from Second Chronicles. Well, the Chronicles are kind of like retellings, reiterations, and they're complementary with First and Second Kings, which I should have known, but the only part of the Bible here that I haven't read yet that I'm working on is the end of Second Kings. So I'm on Second Kings chapter 10. I think there are 20 some chapters. So that is the sliver of the Bible that I haven't read straight through yet. Which is kind of funny because I was named after Elisha, the bald-headed prophet in Second Kings, and that's the last book of the Bible that I'm reading all the way through. When I remember keep thinking, oh, well, I want to read Second Kings because I want to hear all about Elisha because that's who I was named after. Like, super cool. Although the bear story kind of, wasn't all warm fuzzies, but I know that there's more context, whether it be culturally or translation wise, that when I read it the first time, when I was probably a little kid, I was sort of like, ah! I'm older now, obviously. So I'm excited to get into that. But that's the reason why I didn't catch the cross reference, because 2 Kings 19 is like 9 chapters ahead of where I am right now. So in 2 Kings 19, referencing the same event. By the way, it was 185,000 Assyrian soldiers, the mighty army, 185,000. So that was detailed in 2 Kings. But verse 35 of chapter 19 in 2 Kings says, that night the angel of the Lord went out to the Assyrian camp and killed 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. When the surviving Assyrians woke up the next morning, they found corpses everywhere. Then King Sennacherib of Assyria broke camp and returned to his own land. He went home to his capital of Nineveh. Makes sense, it was Nineveh, and stayed there. One day while he was worshiping the temple of his god Nisroch, his sons Adremelech and Sharezer killed him with their swords. They escaped to the land of Ararat. Isn't that where Noah's Ark landed? On Mount Ararat? Anyway, and another son, Shaddon, became the next king of Assyria. But the part in verse 35 that says, that night the angel of the Lord. A lot of times in the Old Testament, because Jesus wasn't baby Jesus yet until the New Testament, but if you go to John 1:1, hold on, I'm in Mark, Luke, John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, next letter to the Romans. Okay, so John 1:1, in the beginning, the Word, capital W, that's Jesus, already existed. So in the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God. Even in the beginning, Jesus was with God. And the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. I love that. So, Jesus was around, but in the Old Testament, he wasn't called Jesus because he wasn't baby Jesus till the New Testament, but he still existed, the Son of God. Now, in the Old Testament, when it's worded as the angel of the Lord, a lot of times that's talking about Jesus. So, the angel of the Lord, which in 2 Chronicle is an angel, that's Jesus. Jesus went out and he went and destroyed the Assyrian camp. Because God will not be mocked. And he was getting mocked. Like that Assyrian king Sennacherib, like he was so full of himself. And he was like, oh, I'm this, I'm great, I'm awesome. You guys, your God isn't anything compared to me. Okay, Sennacherib. He found out the hard way that you don't mock God. God will have his vengeance. If it's not right away, it's still going to happen. I don't know why this keeps going. Woo, woo. So I had to share that. Now, I really wanted to share about Manasseh. Another one of those names. This one's a little bit funny and a little bit true for the first part, but I don't want to spoil this if you haven't read it yet. So back to 2 Chronicles, which it does talk about this in 2 Kings as well. But the 2 Chronicles gives added insight into the latter part of his life, which this is so encouraging. All right. I think I'm just going to start reading. And if you want to listen, then you can listen with me. Okay. I'm reading from the New Living Translation, which is like my everyday reading because of the way it's worded. But I would not rely solely on this for a study. So if a verse jumps out at me, or if something like, I'm like, okay, this isn't adding up, like what? I'll look in other translations to get the really deep meat of it. So there you have it. Also, this was a gift, and I really appreciate this, and I love the people who gifted it to me. So here we go. 2 Chronicles chapter 33. Manasseh rules in Judah. Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 55 years. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, following the detestable practices of the pagan nations that the Lord had driven from the land ahead of the Israelites. Okay, so in a lot of these chapters in the Kings and in the Chronicles, it starts each chapter part, and I know that it was broken up into chapters and verses afterwards, but it starts each chapter saying specifically, hey, is this a good guy? Was this a bad guy? And how old were they when they became king? And how long did they reign? Like, it's very written so that people who are like, okay, this is the facts, that's great. And it puts that all consistently throughout the one. So you can know. It's like a biblical too long didn't read, but you should definitely read it all. Because in this case, yes, he did what was evil in the Lord's sight, but there's a plot twist. So it's super exciting. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, following the detestable practices of the pagan nations that the Lord had driven from the land ahead of the Israelites. He rebuilt the pagan shrines his father Hezekiah had broken down. Really? Don't do that. He constructed altars for the images of Baal and set up Asherah poles. He also bowed before all the powers of the heavens and worshipped them. So here was Manasseh, acting like a word that rhymes with his name, undoing all of the good that his father Hezekiah did to undo all of the bad and return the Lord's favor upon them, because the Lord was angry with them because they were wicked. Everything that the Lord said was good, they were calling bad, and everything that the Lord said was evil, they were praising, they were partaking in, they were celebrating. So yeah, he was mad. So Hezekiah undid that, and now Manasseh's redoing the undoing, and so he built pagan altars in the temple of the Lord, the place where the Lord had said, "My name will remain in Jerusalem forever." He built these altars for all the powers of heavens in both courtyards of the Lord's temple. So he's worshiping like the sun, the stars, the sky. But guess what? Who created the sun, the galaxies, the planets, the earth, the sky? Who? It wasn't themselves. It was God. So why worship the creation instead of worshiping the creator? That's ridiculous. That's like writing reviews to a pizza pie instead of like saying thank you to the chef who made it. Oh, thank you, pizza, for being so delicious. Pizza didn't do anything. It just exists. Someone made the pizza. That was the first thing that popped in my head. Weird analogy. But you get the gist. Okay. So, it gets worse, guys. It gets worse. He built these altars for all the powers of the heavens in both courtyards of the Lord's temple. He built these in the courtyards of the Lord's temple. Remember the whole story about God will not be mocked? Yeah. This guy is fixing to get a real lesson. Calm down, self, calm down. Manasseh also sacrificed his own sons in the fire in the valley of Ben Hinnom. Sacrificed his own sons in the fire. Yeah, not dad of the year, not king of the year. He practiced sorcery, divination, and witchcraft, and he consulted with mediums and psychics. By the way, God doesn't like that. It's written all over in the Bible that he does not like when people are consulting with divination and mediums and psychics. He did much that was evil in the Lord's sight, Manasseh did, arousing his anger. And then, as if it couldn't be more of a mockery to God, Manasseh even took a carved idol he had made and set it up in God's temple, the very place where God had told David and his son Solomon, "My name will be honored forever in this temple and in Jerusalem, the city I have chosen from among all the tribes of Israel. If the Israelites will be careful to obey my commands, all the laws, decrees, and regulations given through Moses, I will not send them into exile from this land that I set aside for your ancestors." So God's keeping his end of the bargain, even when Israel just keeps flip-flopping oh yeah, we'll be good. Just kidding. No, we're not. Get your act together, guys. So Manasseh led the people of Judah and Jerusalem to do even more evil than the pagan nations that the Lord had destroyed when the people of Israel entered the land. Let that sink in for a moment, okay? So how could he possibly think anything good could come of this when they're even behaving and being more rebellious than the people that the Lord destroyed for being rebellious and evil? Okay, so verse 10 now. The Lord spoke to Manasseh and his people, but they ignored all his warnings. Sound familiar? So the Lord sent the commanders of the Assyrian armies, and they took Manasseh prisoner. They put a ring through his nose, bound him in bronze chains, and led him away to Babylon. Now, at this point, when I read it the first time, I was so mad at Manasseh. And why? After Hezekiah, that whole part was so uplifting, encouraging. And then comes Manasseh. But, here we go. There's always a but with God. Verse 12. But while in deep distress, Manasseh sought the Lord his God and sincerely humbled himself before the God of his ancestors. No matter how low you think you are, no matter how far your life has turned away from what you think it should be, or where you realize, maybe I went wrong there, maybe I went wrong here. Manasseh got to a point he was at rock bottom. But sometimes it takes being at rock bottom to realize, hey, I messed up. I really need saving, God. I messed up. I shouldn't have done all these things. All of these things I did, I was stupid. It was dumb. It was so prideful and arrogant of me. Sometimes it takes being at rock bottom to be able to have that heart of true repentance. Wow, did I goof up? Gets better. And when he prayed, the Lord listened to him and was moved by his request. When it comes from a humble and broken and respectful heart, the Lord listened. Because it was at the bottoms of the bottoms of the bottoms of Manasseh's life. But it came from a genuine heart of repentance. So the Lord brought Manasseh back to Jerusalem and to his kingdom. The Lord brought him back. Then Manasseh finally realized that the Lord alone is God. Yes, he is. So Manasseh did completely horrible things that should not have been done and should not have even thought about being done. But there's that repentance there. And God honors that. He honors that and he hears it when we come from a place of true repentance, no matter what our past look like. Let me tell you, my past isn't all roses and flowers and rainbow glitters with like birds chirping. Like, it's not. I done goofed. Not, like Manasseh. But it's still sin. And sin, no matter how little it looks to us or how big it looks to us, it's still sin. And sin still separates us from God. But thank God for his grace that covers us. We are not the same. I'm not the same person I was back then. And if you knew me then and you don't freshly know me now, you don't know me. And it's the same for you. And it's the same for all of these people. God does not define us by our pasts or any of the identities we've thrown onto ourselves over the years. He defines us by who he says we are. And there's plenty of it in here. And guess what? It is all amazing, wonderful things with authority through Jesus Christ. So there is hope for Manasseh. There is hope for you. And that is so encouraging because, who wouldn't be encouraged by that? I am. And I thank God every single day that I am not who I used to be. Because I used to be pretty kind of like not awesome, not cool, pretty bad. I had some pretty really bad moments. So if you want to be encouraged, read the Bible. If you want to know what not to do, read the Bible. If you want to know what you should do and what is pleasing to the Lord, read the Bible. If you want to know what to avoid, read the Bible. Not just quotes on the internet that you see or verses taken out of context. Dig into it and read it for yourself instead of listening to just what everybody else is saying about it. Okay, so thank you for bearing with me. And from one work in progress to another, have a great rest of your week.